Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns for an absolute stacked show. Myself, Bill Bars, Jack Garvin, and Dan Simpson join you. Gentlemen, good evening. How are we?
Very well. All good.
Very well indeed. Busy week. Loads of darts. Football was good. Weather's on the turn.
This is a darts show, Daniel.
It's a very positive week.
Welcome along, everyone. First of all, we've got a little bit of announcement to make. You'll see Dan in the hot seat. Dan will now join the permanent residency at the Live Lounge on the bottom seat. Boise is stepping away from the live stream, not stepping away from OD, but got some other commitments on a Monday now. So Dan is now the resident shareholder. We thank Boise for the Live Lounge over the past couple of years, and no doubt you'll see him on a stream at some point. But Dan, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. It's very, first of all, thank you very much for the invite to become a more regular occurrence for my Monday evenings. It was quite nice to go through my diary and cross loads of stuff out to say I'm busy on a Monday now. I can't do that. I can't go to this boring party, and I can't do that for you. And I'm now busy on Mondays. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. It's I've done quite a little bit of this show, just covering here and there when somebody's at the football or someone's got a wedding to go to. But it's very much it's lovely to be able to get a bit more consistency, being on the regular, keep up with everything. Really, really exciting times.
Yeah, let's jump straight into the chat room. Dave, Tommy, how we doing? Della's in. Kieran, James, Owen, Cameron says good evening, lads. Of course, JB is in. Anthony is in. How you doing, buddy? Hope you are good. Will we see you in Rotterdam this week? Fraser says greetings. Daniel says Schindler, yes. Even before we drop the news, Cameron says yes, Dan's on tonight. Laura, how we doing? Hope Maisie is with you as well. Jar is in, the housewife's choice. Warren, good evening. Eileen, how we doing? ABM, there's no news, but there's no news for a reason, but we're not allowed to say. But it will all become clear once it's actually out, if that makes sense.
When the news is out.
Yeah.
Jar, that's exactly what we said when we replaced you with Boise all those years ago. So, yeah. Welcome to the full-time ranks, Dan. Lee, if you are listening or watching back, it's been an absolute pleasure for the last couple of years. Stepped up, filled Jar's shoes quite well. Same accent, same nonsense chatted for the last couple of years. I think we've gone a bit typical. I move a little bit closer to Phil, so the prospect of this show becoming in person in the future was looking promising. And then we've gone and recruited the furthest member of the team, furthest away from my current location possible, apart from if they're in a different country.
I assumed it was some sort of geographical balance with you moving down to the south coast. If the third member was from the Midlands, then I've had to lift the average location a little bit. It's just centralizes somewhat.
Nice. Luke's mum's on duty this week. Fair enough, buddy. Always good to see you and good to have you in the chat room. Alex Spellman, the newly crowned cross-border champion, will be joining us around 8:30, and before we get into it, I suppose that's a great place to start. That what a success cross-border was this weekend from Michigan City in Ohio.
Yeah, I tuned in a couple of times. Obviously, it's not the most easy time to watch here in the UK, but I may have run a pairs tournament on Saturday night and decided that alcohol was the way forward. So it was great late night viewing when I got back to the hotel room. I really enjoyed. I think I watched all of the quarterfinals and then crashed to sleep. But yeah, really, really, really good tournament. I like the venue. That outlet really good. The production was superb. Yeah, it looked like not that it hasn't in the past, but it looked like a proper darts event.
Well, yeah. Just on that, I had a genuine and I was looking at something, and when you end up clicking one page and click to another, and you end up on a web page that you didn't expect to be on, right?
That's my excuse normally anyway.
I had no I had no intention of looking up tickets to go to the event, but I genuinely ended up just on the page that was the ticket pricing, and I appreciate it's a growing sport and it's like it's improving. But I was completely blown away that for the Friday night, their VIP tickets that included a meet and greet were $50, which for those in the world that spend proper money is like £40, £40 sterling for a VIP meet and greet ticket. On the Saturday, like front row tables, the gold tables were under 30 English pounds, which I just think is like you could get gold. You could get a ticket that covered you for both sessions, gold seats, front row for less than £60 English. Like I was genuinely blown away. And then when I looked at it and I thought, well, this looks really good. This looks brilliant. I just thought there's a lot being done there, not just to put on darts and to progress the actual tournament itself, but to just to allow people that level of we've seen some almost comedic prices for darts events. I know people that have run Mickey Mouse, and I mean Mickey Mouse exhibitions, and charged more than that for meet and greets and things. I just thought it was worth highlighting that the CDC had done a particularly good job in terms of ticket pricing and making it accessible and allowing people that opportunity to get up close and personal with the players. Sounds
very much like those ticket prices would be in the OD budget for next year, Dan, and that the boss should put his hand in his pocket.
We do a Monday, like we do it live from there. Yeah. It's a business expense after all.
Yeah, exactly.
The venue sold out on the Saturday night as well, almost sold out on the Friday. A massive statement that darts is growing in North America off the back of everything that we've seen, which is tremendous, because if you can make just a minuscule splash across the pond, you're going in the right direction.
100%.
It's such a big country, and there's also so many different platforms with which to get content out to people as well. That if you can get a small pocket of people involved, and let's be honest, darts people tend to commit, and they tend to commit hard. Like if they want to get into darts, they tend to go pretty deep with it, don't they? So long may it continue. I think it was a really, or it looked from afar a really good event. As I say, just the periphery stuff that you look at in terms of the way that things were set up, the way the tickets sold, the ticket prices, the standard of darts, which was, if I'm brutally honest, better than I thought it would be. I don't know what the mean average was for the tournament, but I know it will be higher than I expected. We saw some really good performances. Obviously, the more that darts grows in North America and across that continent, the more that we are used to, and even the casual darts fan are used to knowing who these players are and knowing a little bit about having seen them on television over here, having seen them at Ali Pali, having seen people pop up in various different things, UK Opens, etc. I think it was a really, really positive tournament all around. Really good.
Yeah, 100%. Just going to jump back in. Joel, how we doing? Johannes, Chris, Matador, how we doing? Dow, I believe he is out. Bosch, how we doing? Ryan is in. So right, let's run through. First of all, top 16 played on Friday night, and there was a couple of one big shock, which was Jules Van Donnen crashing out to Keith Way. Look, Jules on the tour didn't produce anything like we know he can. That was the big shock on night one.
Yeah, I mean, I had him going pretty much all the way, if memory serves me correctly, this time last week. When he was at the back end of having a tour card last year, he was in fantastic form. It was almost, the conversation was, can Jules do enough to keep it? Has looked brilliant elsewhere. And then, yeah, that was not the performance I expected from him at all. Someone who's got big stage experience now, having had a tour card for the last couple of years, a really explosive A game and a solid enough B game, really. It's definitely come up levels in the last couple of years. To crash out in that fashion was not expected at all.
Yeah, John is in from Pittsburgh, and of course Anthony is in. How are we doing? Good evening, Bob. Look, Jake McMillan, beat Leonard Gates, but that was a really good game. And we saw some darts from Jake, like we saw when he was over at the Super Series as well. Leonard's average 94, not done a lot wrong, but Jake was superb.
I hate to say I told you so, but I definitely called that one last week as well. Really, really impressed with Jake when he came over for the Moda Super Series last year. His counting is solid. His scoring power is brilliant. Was undone by a little bit by the fact that he won Group A last time and then had a gap to Saturday. I think Jake McMillan is the next one from North America who is young enough, ready enough to up sticks and give it a crack as a tour card holder. I genuinely rate him that highly.
No, I'm with you. He's stunning. But there was one standout moment in what was a fabulous game, and that is our guest that's coming on there. Alex Spellman averages 97-2-1 in a 5-2 victory and a 9-darter in there as well. Absolutely incredible. It was one of those times that he never looked like missing. That one, it was just crisp and it was clean. Never looked in any doubt whatsoever.
What more could you want? You know, if as you try and grow a sport and you try and bring more eyes to it and you try and expand it, than somebody slipping a 9-darter in on you. You know, just to show people what it's all about. Like really, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, and he went in with the big billing and rightfully so with performances like that.
Yeah, look, we've seen a lot more of him in the UK in the last couple of years than some of the other players in the field, so we're fully aware of what he is capable of. He's one that's really struggled from Q score with his action, but that was gone. That was very evidently not affecting him. I think he overthought it a little bit from Q score, to be honest. It didn't quite go the way he wanted in stage one at times, or he got close on the first day or two, I think. And after that, he sort of overthought everything and just come crashing down. And the fact he's managed to avert that, stop that, and not let that do any more damage is a really, really good sign. Because if you look at somebody like Glenn Durrant, who got into the habit of overanalyzing his action in a very short space of time, he never found a way back up there. So, yeah, look, brilliant from Spellman. He carries himself so well. When he's on it, he's just magnificent.
Yeah, and there's a couple of bits on what you said there, Gob, which we'll talk to him about when he's on, which was interesting, speaking to him on Zoom, and we'll touch on that. Won't go into it now when he comes on. But there's some real interesting parts in that. Moving on to the Saturday, it started with the quarterfinals. Stowe Bunce, again, another 95-plus average in beating Jim Long, who averaged 90. We've seen, obviously, Stowe at the Grand Slam and at the World Championship. David Cameron edging out Danny Lauby in the last leg of the side, and 97 average from Cameron. Jake McMillan beating Jake Taylor, and then Alex Spellman with another 92 average. There's some serious numbers and serious quality on the show. Those numbers are what we'd expect anything Pro Tour wise.
100%. Look, we've seen what Stowe Bunce can do when he gets his A game right. The issue is his B game, because his action is so hit and miss at times. Obviously, we've just picked up Alex Spellman. The one I'm really, really impressed with, not just in that round of the tournament, averaging 97 against Danny in an absolutely belting game, by the way. The game of the tournament was Cameron versus Lauby. I won't hear it any other way. It was magnificent. Cameron was averaging 111 after 3.5 legs, and suddenly Lauby finds himself level. It came out of absolutely nowhere. Danny pinging, I think it was a 118 and a 106 off the top of my head. Just ridiculous. What kind of selfishly a little bit right now for me, as someone who's involved in the seniors, we're going to David Cameron. Where's this been for the last 18 months? Because the 10 grand he won at the Masters is about to drop off his ranking. He's not really been as effective in the TV events as he would have liked to have been since winning that Masters. And actually, the chances of him being called up again as an invite, as fields narrow in the seniors and we go down a route of 12 on the ranking list for World Championships, etc., is how does David Cameron get back in unless he travels over and starts picking up tournaments again in a field that is much more difficult to do that in? Don't get me wrong, playing darts like that, he's got a great chance, but he will be a little bit, if I'd produced this for the last 18 months, my position in seniors events wouldn't be under as much of a threat right now.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. And we'll touch on that point in a minute, because there was some more interesting points brought up on the seniors from the Zooms that we did. But again, Danny Lauby showing signs of he's maturing as a player. The dip in the range isn't quite as big anymore. he's narrowing that range in his game, which is only a good thing. And obviously that's coming from playing more on the Pro Tour and things like that.
Started slowly, but yeah, responded really well.
Moving into the semi-finals, Cameron edged out Stowe Bunce 6-4, and then again another blistering game between Spellman and Jake McMillan, going all the way 6-5 to Spellman in that one. And I agree that Jake Millen has got a bright future, which we've spoken about earlier, but just came up short against Spellman. And then into the final, what a game. Spellman looked as if he was running away with it. Cameron came back, but under pressure, what a last leg.
To get it done, and to get it done in that fashion in a deciding leg for the second game in a row, like he's gone back to back last leg deciders, which I think tells you a lot about the sort of player he is. Not just in the same tournament to hit the 9. Yeah, it tells you a lot about how he throws a dart, and that he throws a dart very well and he's consistent. But the fact that he's then got the mindset to come through semi-final and final deciding legs is a very, very impressive feat.
Yeah, and a thrilling final. Canada ended up retaining the Nations Cup, which was again the team element to it, which was superb. But I just want to go back to the seniors element. It's interesting that Jim Long obviously spoke about coming over, and he's going to try and plan more seniors events. Stowe Bunce brought up the fact that he's not a million miles away from seniors age. I think 4 years, but openly talking about what's that?
It's far enough away to not be on my list of people approaching 50. Let's put it that way.
But the fact he's already he brought up that the seniors is an option for him was interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a real flavour that the guys from North America are looking at all their angles and all their different things they can play in away from the PDC.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's that hunt for opportunity where and some of it is for those of them that have to go backwards and forwards. Obviously, that trip can be far more justified. The more that they can come and play in, the more opportunities they can give themselves in a window of time. And if you have got a player that's coming over and they're booked in to play Super Series and they've got something else, they've got a couple of open tournaments they're going to play in, but then if they're eligible for seniors and they can band up a trip, it can become potentially a really worthwhile trip. So it just adds to that package of potential when they're going to make a trip going backwards and forwards across the pond.
Yeah, but this begs the next question is, what next for darts in North America? And I mean this in a plus point because the splash they are making, there's a genuine argument now that can the winner of their Order of Merit for the year get a tour card and things like that?
I think that's conversations with the PDC, isn't it? And actually, I don't think that becomes a CDC issue. I think at that point you need the other affiliates to step up a bit, because if you offer it to one, you almost have to offer it to all of them.
See, I'm not so sure about that. Only because I think so. First of all, it does create you let's be honest, Q School's a complete lottery, and we love it, and it's amazing and it's exciting, but there is nothing sort of purer than somebody earning a tour card. They've played to a particular standard among loads of other players for a period of time, whether that's a tour or whatever that is, and earning a tour card. And I just think in terms of, there's lots of different affiliate tours. I just think there has to be a grown-up's view taken of what the standard of that tour is. If you look at the collection of players that are going to be in and around the top of that CDC tour, could you justify a place as a tour card holder? Well, absolutely. Because you look at the standard of the players that will lose their tour card and the darts they've produced for the 18 months before that, then it's certainly of a standard where you could justify awarding a tour card. There are other affiliate tours where that isn't the case. I think it's about the standard of the tour, rather than just having some parity and saying, well, we offer tour cards out to to affiliated tours.
to do a feel here and play devil's advocate, if you like, what happens if you suddenly pinch all the players that are capable of tour standard via the affiliate tour, and then you have to have the conversation about removing that tour card.
No.
Straight away. We had this conversation about the women's series a couple of years ago as well. All right, we'll give the top woman a tour card. All right, well, Bo wins it for 2 years, and then Fallon wins it next year, and then who wins it the year after? Or does it just keep recycling to the same couple of players? Like, by taking away the top talent for a tour card as well, by earning one, then you dilute the quality that's left to then earn one again.
I'm not convinced. I think that's where the decision is as to whether or not the tour can sustain it. That's why I don't think it can be all affiliated tours. I think the idea is that you look at one affiliated tour as one thing and say, well, if one person came off that tour and went and played with a PDC tour card for the year, would it have a detrimental effect? Would it have a negative effect? Would it mean that, in all honesty, that tour becomes more competitive in terms of who's at the top of it? Are we going to see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different people lead that tour throughout the year? Does it then make it more entertaining? Can you then sell some more tickets? There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I just think that if push for an answer on could you justify it, I think 100% yes, you could justify it. But I don't think there's any reason to come down the line of, well, therefore you'd have to offer one to the Asian tour and therefore you have to offer one to wherever else. I just think it's something that can be looked at individually on a case-by-case basis. And if it works, then it works.
Well, before we bring our guest in, interesting, Anthony is in the chat room and he says, I forgot to bring this up last week. We're halfway there. Our players that are top of the points list now go straight through to phase 2 of Q School.
Good.
Perfectly reasonable.
I'm happy with that.
Perfectly reasonable.
That's absolutely outstanding. Right, everyone, I am going to do a 10-second flash ad because our guest is here. So Alex Spellman will be with us in 10 seconds. And joining us from across the pond, it is Mr. Alex Spellman, the new cross-border champion. Good afternoon.
Hey, how's it going?
How are we?
Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem, mate. Not a problem. Is it settled in? You are the new cross-border champion?
No, not yet. I don't know. I'm just like we discussed, man. The last couple months have been a bit of a struggle. It's more relief and relaxation now to feel like, okay, I'm back in winning ways, and so I'll probably be more excited about the next one because now I'll prove this weekend wasn't a fluke, I guess.
Yeah, and we were talking obviously about the tournament in particular, and I said we were going to pick your brain on a couple of bits that we spoke on Zoom about your struggles from Q School to now, and God brought up the fact of, were you just overthinking everything?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I think it came from almost playing too well, and you kind of get relaxed and lazy with your throw, and then when it's not going for you, you start thinking, well, what am I doing different? I feel good. And that leads to overthinking. Between Worlds and that the second day of Q School, everything was just going so well. I was really confident going into the rest of the week. And it's almost, instead of being nice and smooth with it, it was almost like I was just kind of going up there and like chucking it. And all of a sudden, that's what felt comfortable was a late release and a faster throw. But that's not what I do. I release early and I throw a little slower. If I tried to slow down, my brain was fighting me. I mentioned on an interview this morning that at Modus, I had the clip where I stopped myself. And it was, as I'm getting here, I can feel my arm loading up to just go super fast. And I was able to stop myself. But it wasn't the yips or, dartitis. It felt that way because if I let my brain do what it wanted to, I could let go of the dart fine. But if I tried to do what I wanted to do, it didn't go so well. So the last couple months there's only 3 ways you can really fix that. It's I either brute force it back to what I know works, or I try to just say, okay, this feels natural and comfortable. Let's see if I can make this work for me. and neither were really working out. So I kind of have a little bit more of a hybrid that is working for me right now. As we saw this last weekend, it's just as I've been working on it, the inconsistencies are there. The first 2 rounds, I'll average over a ton, and then I drop down to a low 80 and lose. But this last weekend, the consistency is starting to get there as I get more comfortable with it, and not just getting comfortable with it here, but you have to buy into it and trust it at a big event. And I was able to do that.
Well, it's funny you say that about doing it there. Rob says in our chat room, what a darts room that is. And I've got to say, it is mighty impressive from the Jackal.
Thanks. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
I need a bigger trophy shelf if he keeps winning, though.
I'm running out of room.
It's a nice problem to have, Alex.
It is. Look, I love bringing this up. The very first year of the CDC, no one knew who I was. I knew the level I could reach. I didn't know how to get there. My consistency wasn't there. I remember sitting at a table with John Part, and I told him, like, I would always rather play well and lose than play bad and win. You know, and he's like, if I went up on the World Championship final and averaged 55, do you think I care if I win? No, I'm holding up that trophy. And I was like, I'd be hiding behind the trophy, embarrassed because no one thinks I earned that thing. And I'm still, to this day, I still feel that way. If I play well, I feel like I win, or at least I'm making you work and earn that win off of me. So it's at Q School. I wasn't disappointed. I didn't get my card, as I've talked to some of you guys about. The card is kind of, if I got it, I would have accepted it just because why not? It could be fun. But I just, as someone that's based in the States and want to be here, I don't know if it was the best thing for me. But like I said, I don't like to play bad. And so I kind of picked it up that very last day and came up 2 legs short of actually getting my card. But it's just been a struggle, and I'm just glad that I'm back to winning.
On the Friday, the magical 9-darter, the holy grail, some people call it, what a feeling that was. And we said earlier, it was such a nice 9-darter as well. And I know they're all nice, but some can be messy and scrappy where they're in the corners of trebles and doubles. But that was arguably as clean as we're going to see.
You know, there was no nerves or anything there for a second too, because the first couple of legs, it wasn't that I was playing bad. It was just I'd have 2 good darts and a straight dart, 81, 83, ton. And Sylvain was playing well. And when you're only missing by a little bit, you can't panic. You just got to kind of let stuff just fall in eventually. And the leg before, they finally started falling in for me. And so when I go 180, it was just in a weird way. I'm not even thinking about the 9 necessarily. I'm just like, okay, we're going now. Like, you're feeling good. I think fortunately that the triple 19 was in that corner. And it makes you pause for a half second to like see, like, oh wait, is that in there? Okay. And then you go up, and it almost distracts you for just a second and makes that next start a little easier. If you go dead center trip 20, dead center trip 19, you're in that rhythm, just like, oh God, you know. But I'm honestly, I'm happier. Not that I've got 5 now, but that was my first in a live. You know, like people chasing their first 180, they put so much pressure on that third dart that it's hard to hit. But once you've hit one, they keep coming easier because now you've already done it before. So that was my first live one, so that was great for me. But it was a bigger moment, I think, for the CDC and the crowd and all. It's great promotion for the North American game.
Well, it's funny you say that and what you said about not being known 5 years ago, and off the back of what we've seen you do at Ali Pali, that clip of the 9-darter has gone viral across the world for you and the CDC. What's it like now being talked about? And obviously we're going to talk about it later on about the best players without a card. What does it feel like when people are talking about Alex Spellman, about the next one that could come and make a huge splash in the world of darts?
You know, I've got 2 brains. The one half of the brain believes it. I buy into it. I think I could. Then the other half of the brain is like, am I really that good? Am I just on a kind of a good run? You know, and will I fall off eventually? It almost looked like I was about to. But it's weird being able to just open up Twitter and I'm like, oh, there's my picture. You know, it's I don't know. It still doesn't feel very real. Like after these wins, like it's cool in the moment, but then the next day it's like, okay, so what's next? Like my life didn't really change that much. Now, of course, if I go win a world championship, that might change my life a little bit. But so they bring up, and this is something interesting, because somebody asked me, like, how can you not be excited? And I'm like, I'm just relieved right now, man. I don't have any room for excitement right this second. But they talk about, like, Olympic athletes. They train 4 years and basically kill themselves to train for this event. And then they win the event. They win gold. And then the next day, it's the same thing, and it actually causes a lot of depression and issues with players. Now, I'm not feeling depressed today for sure. I'm pretty happy. But it's after each event, it's like, okay, I believe in myself a little bit more, and then a little bit more. But like I said, today is a different day. We could run the tournament back again next weekend, and maybe I'm crashing out in the first round. Who knows? I mean, I hope not, but I don't know. That's just the way I try to approach things, is never satisfied, always moving on to the next one.
Does that mean you're quite a consistent goal setter in short-term aims, right? I'm going for this next, to avoid those feelings of, I worked for ages for this, and then the crash afterwards?
No, actually, so I don't necessarily set goals for myself either, because if I'm setting goals, like, okay, now I'm going to go, like, if I say I'm going into the CDC season to get the #1 spot, to get the world championship spot, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on me to actually go do that. If all I do is focus on how well my game is, or like how well I'm playing, I just kind of let things naturally fall in place. Like I said, if I play well, I tend to win. And so the winning and the prizes, that all gets handled, just by nature of playing well. And as somebody that it's fairly universally known, like, I don't drink, I don't do anything. I don't need that extra pressure and stress and anxiety put on myself. Because everybody can say what they want about me, but no one talks more crap about me than me. So if I can keep myself in a good headspace, then I'm good.
I like that. That's really refreshing to hear, because you see so many players do exactly opposite. So that's incredible. Matador says in our chat room, one of the best dart shirts, in my opinion, and I agree, it's great. But where does the Egyptian theme and come from? Because we see it kind of everywhere. Is this something that you're massively into?
Yeah, like growing up in high school, you're trying to figure out, what do I want to do for a living, and there was something about archaeology and astronomy that always pulled at me. I ended up going into IT because I found out astronomy is like looking at, like, don't get me wrong, I like numbers, but looking at papers and not like doing the cool stuff, looking through the telescopes, that became less. And then archaeology, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be out in the desert and on my hands and knees and chiseling stuff out. But I've just always had a love for history and that particular culture, and that time period is something that always drew me in. The license plate on my car is Anubis, and I've just
love that.
So this isn't like a dart thing necessarily. It was just that you have a lot of dart shirts out there that are. They throw a dartboard on there and some flames, and there's your thing. I want to have something that's personal to me and not even dart related, like something that tells you something about me. Like Danny Lobby, I think some of his jerseys has like a musical element because he's a drummer, Yeah. So like I said, it'd be easy to throw an American flag on there, a dartboard and some darts and whatever. But I wanted something that showcased something that I love, and something that, there might be a cool design,
Dart players take note.
Yeah.
More of that, please. More of that.
Should never be on a dart shirt. End of conversation.
But touching on what you said there as well, it's like close to you. Is that something that's important as well for brand Spellman going forward? Because the better you get and the more you do this, obviously we see dart players that do have established brands in themselves. So this is something that can be brand Spellman as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the secondary part, but you're still aware of it. Like, okay, if this, like when I reached out to them when I first got sponsored by Galaxy, it was, well, what do you want to do? And I was just like, I want something plain, like a golf shirt, like James Wade wears, like, or something plain. And they were like, okay, but if you could be creative, what would you do? And so I went with this because it's something I love. But I was like, I think we might be able to, create a brand from that because no one else is doing that. I thought 2 years ago when I went to Calcar for Q school, I thought it was a sign because we're in the middle of Germany and you walk in and I don't know if you've been there, but it's Egyptian themed. And I'm like, what? I thought that was a sign. It was not a sign. I did not. But but yes, you have to take those things into account, and this is my job now, so it's something that I'll lean into for the rest of my career potentially.
Off the back of this weekend, back to Madison Square Garden, and I know we spoke about this. How excited are you to be going back? Because you did okay last year, as we said, but you were disappointed that you didn't push more. So is this now all eyes on MSG?
At the moment, yes. Luke, I feel like I played really well against Luke. It was just one of those where you're on the wrong side of the wire, so the stats don't really reflect how well I felt that I played. And honestly, a lot of us didn't play well. Michael Smith didn't play well. Cross didn't play well. Luke didn't play. And I'm hoping they don't play well again, because I'm going to try to take advantage of it this time. On the North American side, Campbell and I had a great match. I think we were mid to high 90s for most of the match, and then we had some last leg double trouble that kind of drug us down. But I'm looking forward to getting some revenge on my fellow peers this time as well. But playing in front of a big crowd is something that's still fairly new to me, because I was MSG last year was the first time I did that. But you get more comfortable with it, and I found that I had a little more of the crowd on my side at MSG, because obviously we're in North America. I enjoyed having the crowd against me more at Worlds. I actually talked to John Part about it. Not yesterday, 2 days ago, right before we actually went out to play. And I asked him, I was like, would you rather have the crowd on your side or against you? And he's kind of in the same as me. And when the crowd's on your side, like, I can let them down. I don't want to do that. There's more pressure to perform for them. But if you're booing me and you're not taking it personal, then it can be fun to hit a big shot and then go be like, oh, well, what was that? What was that? And I know when I was playing Campbell, I had some guys heckling him right up front, and it started making them play better. And I almost wanted to be like, guys, stop. But it just depends on how you take it. I know a lot of the big guys don't like it very much, but honestly, I don't necessarily see it as them booing me. I just see it as them rooting for the other guy, and I don't take it personal. And I don't know, but it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully perform a little better this time.
Off of MSG, obviously, there's a lot on the line there. The US Darts Masters is the glitz and the glamour tournament, shall we say, but there's also a very important North American Darts Championship. One, you could complete the Triple Crown, and two, it's a place at Alexandra Palace again.
Right. And then that takes a whole lot of pressure off of me for the regular season, which when I talked to you the other night, I told you it's about to get a lot harder if Baggage comes to play, and Jeff Smith's going to be there, and it's going to be that much harder. And Stowe's getting better and more experience, as are other guys. You mentioned Jake McMillan just a little bit on the stream, So I would much rather just get it done. Just like, I mean, it wasn't, again, if you put it on a pedestal, it makes it that much harder. But I was very aware that if I won the cross border, I get into MSG and I don't have to worry about the qualifier that first CDC weekend. And that's where the pressure is really on you. So I already knew I had a second attempt at it, and that made this one a little bit easier. So, yeah, if I can get that spot at MSG, then I should hopefully perform that much better the rest of the regular season, because I don't have to worry about that.
Some of the names that you've spoken about, and we've spoken about this on the show a lot, your Baggashes, your Jeff Smiths, your Matt Campbells, your Jules, that have made that sacrifice to try and play in Europe. How, or what is the best way for someone from North America to do this? Because we understand that it's tough to leave your family for weeks at a time. Is there a perfect scenario that you guys can do this travel and become one of the very best?
Yeah. I do think that I don't know, the way that I prepare and stuff, like I don't need an official setup here. I will literally set a board in a chair and just throw at it just to kind of get the arm going. So and I already don't sleep as it is. So I feel like I could come back and forth and still be pretty successful. It's just, it is draining and it makes you not want to do it. So it's tough. And so players that are, especially from North America and any other country, I mean, the first thing you got to do is you got to go over and give it a try, see if it's something you want to do, first of all. But then you also have to kind of gauge yourself. Where do I stand with these guys? Like yes, I lost at Worlds, but I feel like if I perform like that on a regular basis, I'm going to win a decent amount too. Like I said, I played Littler all 3 times, beat Littler all 3 times at Modus last year. And yeah, he wasn't quite on his World Championship final form, but it was still within the same calendar year. I've practiced really well with Cross and Scott Williams when I played Fallon. I beat her when I played John Henderson. I beat him. So you start taking these scalps and start believing in yourself, like, okay, I can play with these guys. I can beat them. And then the next step is to, okay, now that I've proven to myself that I can do this, is this something I want to commit to? Do I sell my house and move over? Because I can sell my house right now and move over there. And even at my level, there's no guarantees I ever get on the tour. Because if I don't get on in January, I'm there for a whole year with nothing to do until the next year. And is it worth selling and uprooting your family to hope that you get the opportunity, and then not only get the opportunity, but be successful with it? And I do believe I could do that, but it's still a gamble. There's no guarantees there. And like I said, we have some good momentum here in the States. We have a depth of players now that, like I said, I think I want to focus a little more on just seeing what we can do here first before I make that decision to, all right, let's go give it a real shot.
Does playing in things like the Super Series give you that decent idea of what the standard is like in the UK? If you're not at that, obviously you've played at the pro level, you've seen what's just underneath that as well. Now you could, you could come and mix in and feel comfortable.
Yeah, and not to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but both times that I came, I'm not even going to include this last time because I was more focused on trying to fix my throw than trying to win a week. But even in the back, I heard commentary was like, maybe he should stop leaving double 20. And I told the guys in the back, I was like, look, I'm trying to fix my throw. If my double 20 starts landing, y'all are in trouble, but I'm not going to run away from it. But the other two times I was there, I was very successful. The second time, 14-1. So these are, all great quality. I mean, really good quality players. And if I'm able to do that to them, then that tells me that I'm hovering in between, those card holders and everybody else. And it does give you that and I almost wish I wasn't doing that, because that's what makes it difficult for me to decide, do I want to go over there or not? If I was just getting my butt beat, it makes my decisions really easy. But yeah, it's great experience playing on stream in front of a lot of people, especially a lot of our North Americans. It would be great for them to get that experience as the gambling starts coming in on the CDC, because I've had some hate mail and things because I didn't perform quite as good. Like the week I went 14-1, it didn't. I didn't play bad on Saturday, but I didn't. Just didn't. Bradley Rose threw a 99 on me in the semi. What am I gonna do? It just gets them used to that environment of playing on TV, playing when people are putting money on you, and then on Saturday night, it's weird. Playing in front of a huge crowd is easy. Playing in front of a crowd that's kind of small and you don't know anybody there is weird, because you want to like perform for them, but like you're just like, when you lose, you're just kind of like a quick like thanks, and then you just like duck your head and leave. I don't know. It's great experience.
Do you want to do some questions, Gob, from the chat room?
We shall do indeed. What do we have? HMV says, will we see Alex on MSS again? I mean, I don't know if you can spill the date, but I'm guessing that's a very big yes.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't know what or if the date is going to be. I know I was invited to be on the current series, but I have some other stuff that was lined up. So I sent them the dates that I'm available, and hopefully, it works out.
Yeah. Andrew says, do you prefer soft tip or steel tip?
Steel tip. I do have a soft tip board. I jump on there occasionally. It's fun. It's a break from the steel tip world, but it's hard for me to take it as serious as steel. If I need a 180 to win a match on a steel tip board, and if I miss, I mean, whatever. But if I miss on a soft tip board, I'm kind of mad about that. Like it feels like it's this big, but I do enjoy it. It's very hard to win in the soft tip world because everybody has bigger targets, and it's a lot. Steel tip is about hitting your target, and soft tip is about not missing your target. So it's just different.
Yeah. Ricky says, when did Alex start playing darts, and when did he realize he was good enough to compete against the elite?
Started playing around 2008. Never really traveled outside my little city until about 2 or 3 years later. And even then, up until COVID, I really never went to anything other than maybe Vegas. I just stayed in my local, but I always knew I had a talent there. Now, the standard of the game has risen in North America by a massive amount. So what I thought was like, ooh, I can actually maybe do something with this 12 years ago is a little different now. But I've always had a natural talent for it. I have videos of me from 10 years ago putting up high 80s, low 90s, but I just couldn't do it match to match. I'd beat Lobby with an 88, and then I'd lose with a 62 the very next match. So, I've been playing about 15 years. Took it serious during COVID.
Interesting. Tommy says, who's your best friend in darts?
There for a little while was probably PJ Stewart Jr., who's been doing the youth circuit on the JDC and all that. I lost to Littler in the WDF final, I think 2 years ago. He lived 10 minutes from me, so we were always practicing with each other. Other than that, I guess the current friend is a good friend of my wife and I, who helped design my jersey, Ashley Ritchie. And probably those two.
Chris says, who is Alex's darting hero growing up?
Well, growing up, I didn't start playing until 2008 when I was in college. So none then. I mean, I had a board, but I'm not. Okay, so it's interesting when you start remembering things. So when I was a kid, my dad had a board, and it's like a base. So when you turn the board around, it had a baseball diamond on it. And I would play that, and I had an official scores book, and whoever the Atlanta Braves were playing that night, I'd fill it in, and I'd play darts. And my dad would ask me, well, why don't you do that anymore? And I told him, well, it's easy. I keep hitting a grand slam every time. So it got boring, and I stopped. At the time, I had no idea that I had a talent for the game. I don't know. But, so I don't know. I don't have anything for growing up. Simon Whitlock was my favorite for a while. I don't really know why. I just liked watching him a lot. So I guess Whitlock is going to be my guy.
Interesting one. And last, oh no, we've got two in here. First of all, John O'Shea's in, the Joker, the former world master, who says, tell Alex to stay in the States. We have enough to be dealing with here.
So speaking of John, like we had a great match that last. I hate that I mean, fortunately, I followed it up with a good match. I just hate that I came up short 2 matches later. But beyond just coming over there and getting the experience, it's little things that the top players say or do, not even intentionally, that really give you like okay, I have some respect over here now. So at Q School, John was going to go play a warm-up game, and Cross is sitting there, and John goes over to a guy and says, hey, you want to play a practice game? And Rob goes, no, play with Spellman. He's better, or something like that. And I was just like, oh, I was like, I'll take that.
Certainly. And the last one we're going to go with is from Cameron. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. He says, who would Alex's dream match be against? But I'm going to ask you, which of the PDC players would you most like to play at Madison Square Gardens in a few weeks' time?
That is a good question, because all of them, like all of them have their reasons why. I would love to play, the perennial guys, like the Michael Smiths and the Peter Wrights and the MVGs. I wouldn't mind another. I keep bringing up Littler because I'm 3-0 against him, but I know that that's not going to last very long. It would be nice to maybe have a quick little rematch. I'm sure he'd want to set the record straight. But if I win, now I get to go to the crowd, be like, I think getting to warm up and practice with Cross before Worlds, getting to actually know him a little better. I think I'd like to play him because I think he knows what I can do, and I might be able to use that to my advantage a little bit.
So I'm just going to chuck one in there because I don't know if you are, but are you a wrestling fan? And if so, have you got a favorite wrestler?
I was never a wrestling fan, unfortunately.
Yes, he's an adult. Yes. That's Daniel Bryan when you need him.
I mean, growing up, you would always see Hulk Hogan, and of course, he did some movies back in the '90s. So, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Hogan. But never really watched anything, unfortunately.
Oh, so you didn't watch Mania then?
Nah.
Oh, gutted.
No longer one of your favorites. Sorry.
Nah, you're always one of our favourites. Alex, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Live Lounge, mate. Thank you very much, and superb at the weekend. Congratulations on winning cross border. I will see you at MSG if you're not over in the UK beforehand. But thank you very much for coming on, mate. Massively appreciate it and taking time out. So thank you very much, mate.
Yep, thank you.
Right, we're going to flash that quick 10-second ad again to get Alex out, and we'll see you all on the other side of this. I tell you what, that was an incredible listen from Alex, and it's a real level-headed way and just a refreshing listen. Just listening to him talk about everything and the way he processes it.
Yeah, thoroughly decent chap, isn't he? With a very realistic look about both his own position within the darts world and the darts world in general. Like, genuinely refreshing, but it's difficult to not root for him, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I suppose it's a good segue now into what we were talking about, and it's a topic that is spoken about a lot. Top 5 players without a tour card. We're going to dissect it, and look, we're all going to have different lists here. And Chatroom, I want to get you involved in this as well, because it's a real good one. And whenever you speak to people, everyone's list different. So, top 5 players right now without a tour card. First of all, can we agree on any, or is there going to be any players that is going to be in all of our lists?
I think it's a bloody lottery. It's hard to narrow it down, isn't it? But
Hey, get off that fence. I'm going to start calling you Mr. Creosote.
no. So you see, you've got to say Danny Jansen. Just because he sits at the top of the Challenge Tour Order of Merit and he hasn't got a card and he's better than everyone else that hasn't got a card that's played those events. In terms of form, certainly being best in the last 4 months. He's there. There's then a case to be made for Andy Bolton because he's not very far behind him. There's a case to be made for Bo if she replicates the level and the just on sheer numbers alone, just on averages and statistics, there's a case for Bo. Jansen, Bolton, Bo Greaves, Alex Spellman, +1. And again, I just think that 5th spot, it's whether you want form or talent.
Well, that's why I think we're all going to look at this slightly different, which is great.
Pilgrim probably 5th.
Who's in
not
your
necessarily ranked 5th, just a 5th name?
Who's in your runners and riders club before we kind of do our own individual lists?
Ooh. I've got Spellman in the conversation, certainly. I've taken a sneaky peek at the Asian Tour rankings and seen Nabreda romping ahead. Toilo started really well. Really impressed with Tomoya Goto as well, who played pretty solid at the World Championships, if you remember.
Yeah.
Jansen certainly back in that conversation right now, as is Andy Bolton. Andy Bolton, for me, is a player who is perhaps not consistently good enough to be a full-time 128, but is far too good for any other level I've seen him at. Where he walks into a seniors event or an ADC event or even the Super Series, he is always there or thereabouts. I've snuck a couple of others in there in Richie Howson. I certainly think you've got to have a conversation about a man who keeps making finals in World Seniors events in that field. When you consider the likes of Henderson and Thornton and Leonard Gates, who was certainly in this conversation at one point, perhaps his form doesn't dictate that right now, but in terms of a talent and what he's won in the last few years, Gates, Bioecki, who's just been popped up in the chat room, and the other one, Ross Montgomery.
Did you mention John Henderson there?
I mentioned him in the runners as people that Howson keeps beating, but again, Henderson is one who keeps getting shots at the Pro Tour via the Challenge Tour, is the Seniors World Champion without playing his A game, really, let's be honest.
I've got 8 players on my list that I need to get into 5. So, again, in no particular order, my 5 right now, Pilgrim, Spellman, Harrison, Jeff Smith, Raymond Smith, John Henderson, Zong, and Białecki are my personal 8.
My issue with Raymond Smith is we haven't seen him enough recently.
I agree, but I still think he's in that bracket for me.
I think if our good friend Lendl had him rated above certain people in FDI, you turn around and say how he hasn't played in X amount of time.
Oh, on form-wise, I agree, but we said this isn't going to be just on form.
This guy has to be in there for me. I can't believe I forgot him. Scott Taylor.
Yeah, I agree. Scott Taylor would be...
He makes the game so easy.
So what? Well, none of us have said is like 4 years ago, World Championship quarter-finalist Labanauskas hasn't got a card.
Again, I just haven't seen him play since
He lost his card.
Chris, it's an interesting one, Chris, and technically, again, we haven't seen him, but you'd have to have him in the conversation, I guess.
We haven't got dartboards there.
no biggest waste of talent this world has ever seen.
Oh, it is, but he's still potentially one of the best players not to have a card.
So is Gordon Dobie if you really want to go at that approach.
Granted, you can't play from where he is because you're not allowed sharp objects, but...
Correct.
Play with the magnet ones on one of those reverse.
I think he's got the same dartboard as Ted.
Right, we've banded around a lot of names, so like always, chat room as well. I want your definitive 5. If you were colours to the mast, you had to pick your top 5 players right now without a card. Who would they be?
Nobody said Richie Burnett yet.
Because he was rubbish at the tavern this year.
Yeah, but that's...
I've got 4. Who's getting my 5th spot?
I have my list.
Go on then, Gob. Who would your, right now, 5 be?
Andreas Harrison.
Yep.
Although I need to see more from him elsewhere, but I think that's why he's still in this list and not elsewhere. Darryl Pilgrim.
Yep.
Scott Taylor.
Yep.
Ross Montgomery over Andy Bolton and Danny Jansen.
Dan, have you got your 5?
I've got 4 100%. Yeah, I've got 5 now. Pilgrim, Jansen, Spellman, Greaves, Henderson.
And to be fair, Matador makes a good shout there. We've not really spoken about Neil either. Winning.
I've thought about him twice because I went through the players that had already booked their spot in Champions Week.
Yeah.
Robinson, Bradley Brooks looked excellent at times last week.
Bradley Brooks.
Yeah.
Shout.
This is why this is such a good conversation. Right. I'm going with Pilgrim, Harrison, Spellman, Białecki, and my 5th, I am going with Jeff Smith.
Oh, Christ. Again, I only seen him once since, though. And that's... I think by the end of the year, I'll certainly be saying Jeff Smith in the conversation. I've got a 6 to 10 as well, if anybody's interested.
Oh, yeah, this is why this is so good, because there's no definitive... Do 6 to 10 as well. We'll all do 6 to 10.
Bolton, Białecki, Spellman, Duff, Paolo Nebreda.
Dan?
Hang on. I'm up to 8.
Tom Sykes is a bloody good shout as well, by the way. His action is mustard.
I've just seen Chris's.
Chris's suggestion.
Yes, I'm all for that. All for that.
I rated HJV. That's a solid 5. David Cameron, the finalist from this weekend. He looked awesome again, by the way.
Yeah, this is why this is so good.
Oh, we just completely ignored Jules Van Dongen. And he's got what? Did he get it back? He got it back. That'd be why we ignored it then.
Right, have you got your next 5, Dan, from 6 to 10?
I need one more. Hang on. Give me a second. Where am I going? Who's going to have it?
Oh, shit. We forgot John.
Right. Right. I've got me 5. 5 more. Bolton, Białecki, Harrison, Mitchell, O'Shea.
He just saved himself.
Yeah, you got out on your first full-time stream. We see that.
Day one is the full-time pundit, and he's already playing up to the chat room. Smooth operator.
Love you, John.
Right, I am going
Desmond.
my 6 to 10. Raymond Smith, Scott Taylor, Zong, Hendo, Duff.
Oh.
What have you just...
He's not been mentioned in the chat room or here, but I was with him this weekend.
Are you on about Don't Stop Believing Journey?
Who's that?
Steve West.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, right now, I can't have him in there because he's injured.
Oh, yeah, he can't stand at the hockey for more than
That-
30
that's what I mean.
seconds. But yeah.
Steve West fit, he is instantly in there. I'm not arguing that. But I asked for top 5 right now. And right now, he can't throw.
Yeah.
So that's
Neither
why...
can Corey, so we can remove that one.
What's that?
Neither can Corey, so he was out that conversation.
Stowe Bunce, he's certainly in the conversation. I agree. I genuinely think this is such a good question because it does change frequently as well. But the talent on show outside is incredible.
Nobody's mentioned Connor Scott yet.
Not again, another one that could quite easily be in there.
Jared Cole.
100%. On current form. On current form, Nolan. She's won a women's series and a challenge tour.
Yeah.
Have to be in the conversation. Fallon's been said a lot as well. The form she's had in the women's series, I think, in the conversation.
Gary Stone. What conversation?
This is why.
You can do it everywhere but wherever I see him, it seems to be, though.
This is why this is so good.
He gets better.
So that is our top 5s right now, or top 10s we've done in the end. We'll come back to the Euro Tour in a minute, but we're going to jump on an interesting Instagram post. And for once, it's a positive one from Gezi. He could have exploded yesterday, but didn't. It was the one after where he was asking for holiday advice because he wants to take his family away on holiday, and instantly I clocked it. Gezi instantly told the world that he's not going to Australia and New Zealand for the World Series Winning Michael van Gerwen, not travelling down under, boys. Is this now becoming an issue for that region and darts and attracting the top players to go down under because of everything that goes with it?
I think it's the obvious one you would dip. Like, if we're to be brutally honest, if your diary is already completely packed and you are playing in everything, you're playing the Premier League and you're doing all the World Series events and you want a family holiday and you want it in the summer, it's almost a no-brainer. That's the one you would pick. I don't think there's anything that the Australians can do about it other than petition the PDC for a different slot in the calendar where it's just less likely that people are going to want to holiday at that point. But it will still be the one that's the biggest ball ache of them all to get to and to go to. You know, it's costing you a week to be somewhere for 3 days. And it's in a hectic time of year. I think there's very little they can do about it, but it will remain a problem. If anything, it'll get worse.
The problem is, I'm still. What's the bloody point in the Australian leg of the World Series? Right, it's produced players before. It's raised darts to a certain level, but actually, the last couple of years, it feels like those tours have gone backwards. They've separated New Zealand and Australia once again. We just spent the first half an hour of this show bigging up the CDC, what they're doing, what they're growing in a country that is 3 times the size of Australia or whatever it is. That should be so much more difficult to grow than what they are doing right now. And Australia, it feels like they've gone backwards.
Oh, I agree. The decision to split the DPZ and the DPA was ridiculous.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that's a local tour issue. We're talking about the World Series and the World Series events. About the top stars.
Again, what's the point in the World? We've been going to Australia for 15 years for the World Series.
Yeah,
the whole of the World Series is to grow the game. The World Series as a tool in Australia is no longer effective.
Yeah, but
I agree. I genuinely think what they should consider doing, because you also because of the reasons that we've seen with those two, and it's only 2 players for now. Let's be honest, it could be more. You've got to make it attractive for the players as well to want to get on board and to go there, especially if you're going to do it in the middle of summer when the kids are off school and it's when they could actually go on a holiday. For me, you look at where the game is growing and where we're seeing things, advance. You'd be better off going back to America and doing an East Coast and a West Coast. If you're going to travel, let's be honest, because you'd immediately say, well, the East Coast of America is far easier because you go to New York, you fly there from the UK in 5-6 hours, depending on who you fly with, and you can get there and back fairly easily. But going to the West Coast of America is infinitely easier still than going to Australia, which is the hardest place in the world to get to. So for me, you'd be better off because you're in an area where the World Series can do its job. It can bring people that haven't seen major darts events before to them to see the best players in the world. You're doing it in a growing environment, in an economy that can sustain it, to a place where all the players will want to go to. They could take their families with them to the West Coast of America.
And you could leave them there for an extra week. Don't make them rush back for the match play. You can stay at Disneyland and come back again afterwards.
Quite right.
But look, I get the points, but there are also points that we don't particularly look at, and Matt Porter explained them really well on the DartsCast interview. Right? No, you might not like this, Gob, but look, he's honest enough because he was asked about the Canada one, and he was like, look, would we like to do an event in Canada? Yes. Have we got a broadcast partner in Canada? No. So right now, it's not an option because there's no broadcast partner. Australia has huge broadcasting, which is part of the World Series. Whether you like that or not, that is one of the major factors of the World Series.
It might be.
But
the other part of the World Series is a tool to grow the sport. It's not doing that anymore. Growth was stalled. That means they need to come up with something different. And sending Peter Wright down there for the 8 millionth time to be throwing darts in a Burger King the week before he starts. Not working.
I get the broadcast. I get the broadcast deals, and I get that that's important. I don't know. I think if they wanted to, there isn't a broadcast deal in place for the Euro Tour. I think if broadcast deals were important and that important in terms of revenue and decision making,
I believe there is broadcast deals in continental Europe for the Euro Tour, though.
Belgium, there is.
Yeah, I'm sure Sport 1 in Germany as well, perhaps.
Well, give them another 6 Euro Tours then.
Yeah.
So,
because that wasn't controversial this weekend, let's move swiftly on to that one.
Oh, we'll talk about the Euro Tour in a minute, don't worry. But we also know that there are other players that don't particularly want to go to Australia, but understand their obligation to go. Now, I understand from a family point of view, I completely understand why players don't want to go, and I get that, and I massively respect that. However, as international sportsmen at the top of their field, do they have a duty to go as well? I'm not saying every year, but is there a duty for these players to go as well?
There's only 2 players that should feel any sort of pressure to go to the World Series in Australia this year. Luke Humphries, the world number 1 and world champion, who's never been there before, and Luke Littler, the face of the sport, who should ride this crest of the wave for a long, long time because, look, everybody else that we've seen in this position has sustained some level of growth through professional ranks. Luke is on a high. I'm not saying Luke Littler is a flash in the pan, by the way, but these opportunities might not be there in the future for one reason or another. Go and take them whilst you're young and you still can. Everybody else, if you don't want it, don't go. And let us finally see the other players that we've been told, if you want to pick and choose your calendar, are ready to take your spot. Because apparently the PDC don't feel that way because they're not rotating.
I think as much as I can't get excited about the idea of 2 events in Oceania, that I just think are not they're not what the World Series is all about, and I just think there's better options available. Like, I don't know, there's a bit of the Roy Keanes about it. Like, it's what that's what they do. That's the decision that they made to be professional darts players. Surely that's what, like, if you want to be a professional darts player, surely that's what you want. You want to travel the world. You want to play darts in all sorts of different arenas against all. I mean, are they bored of it? I don't know. They're just going to play some darts, aren't they? That's what they're darts players.
It goes back to the conversation that we've had a lot. There should be a set off season as well, where there is X amount of weeks that there is nothing. There is a genuine down period for the sport.
But you can pick and choose your schedule, so they don't need one of those.
Yeah, and the problem I have, I suppose you'd still do the same amount of events, I suppose. What you couldn't do is you couldn't lose any events. That's the problem. Because like we've had the debate an awful lot about how the new format for both Euro Tours and weekday only non-weekend Pro Tours is putting pressure on people's earning potential and people's ability, let's say beyond the top 50, to sustain a full-time comfortable living from, and meet all their obligations as a professional darts player. I think if you then take a month off, you've got to lose an event, something, even if you shred the pro. You can't lose 4 weeks and not lose something. Otherwise, all you're going to get is everybody moaning about the calendar being too condensed at other periods and it's too busy and everyone hasn't had a day off and they couldn't. And they're always going to moan. It's remarkable. And you tend to find as well, the richer people are, the more they feel entitled to have a moan about having to go to work. But I just don't buy it. You just need to get on with it. If you don't want to go, don't go, but don't expect sympathy from people. that you need a break.
Yeah, I disagree that when you say Matt Porter's ruined the PDC, he needs to go. I completely disagree with that. That there is now £15 million worth of prize money available for dart players per year that are broadcast globally around the world. So, I'm not having that.
No, I just think you try to find. I'm not really against any of the changes. I just think you try to fine line, and if you do something and you implement a system, it's then incredibly difficult to tweak that and change it because you are affecting people's livelihoods when you start to make changes because people build. They fit their lives around it. There will be people that have, set their lives up now to the changes that have happened to weekday only pro tours. If you then change it and say, well, actually, there's 4 weeks off here, or there's something else, or something like you're then asking everybody to sort of reprogram again. In reality, to appease a very select number of people who are the most affluent of all of the darts players. You are appeasing. You're basically messing with 120 people's earning potential and job in order to appease the very, very richest among them, and potentially give the very richest among them an extra week off to have a holiday that no one else can afford.
I think part of it also is the top players now know how valuable they are. The PDC have shrunk the number of players that they deem commercially viable, right? That's clearly evident by the fact that the World Series this year is an extension of the Premier League. Peter Wright could have done with a rest somewhere. His form has not been great. He's not as entertaining. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly come back, but at the start of the year, to put Peter Wright in everything at the same time, I thought personally was a mistake. Rob Cross's return to the Premier League alongside all the World Series perhaps seems to be a little bit too much. He's not been as effective in the Premier League as some of us thought he might be going in. And the only player we've seen step up and come anywhere else or get another call-up has been Dimitri van den Berg. Like, there are players on the sideline ready and waiting for a crack at these events. And I just can't believe they're not using them. And the only logic I can come down to it is the PDC have promised the TV companies, which is why these World Series exist in these countries and not in others, as Phil just said. They've promised them X number of players from the Premier League. And that means the players know exactly how valuable they are and have got the PDC over a barrel and are just going to extort them to get them to go down there.
Well, do you not think that like, I always laugh about the picking of the Premier League in that because it is. I mean, I love the Premier League, but it's an exhibition. And if I book an exhibition in my pub, I can pick exactly which dart players that I want to be paid to be there because that's how an exhibition works. And do we not just look at these World Series events exactly the same? And if somebody's going to pay to have an event in Bahrain, they'll just pick the players that they want on. And at the minute, they want the Premier League players because there's a reason they've been picked for the Premier League because they're the most commercially viable. But they're the players that people want to go and see in arenas, barring perhaps Peter Wright, who people still want because they get to see Peter Wright once a year and they still quite like his entrance.
That's the point. That the World Series aren't for us three. They're not for fans in the UK. And we sometimes get caught up in that, thinking they are when they're not. They're designed for the fans in that area. Now, Dan summed it up really well there, that you only get to see these players once a year. You want Michael van Gerwen, Luke Littler, Gerwyn Price, because that's the only chance you get to see them live and in person. And look, we do know TV companies for the World Series especially do have a say. Look, when 2019, when they announced Fallon she was going to New York originally, and then the Australian and New Zealand TV companies got on the phone, hang on a minute, we want a piece of this. Then she was putting them all. Pretty sure, similar with Luke, off the back of the World Championships, was given Bahrain and Holland, and everyone else got on the blower. We want a piece of this.
Which is understandable because Luke is the hottest commodity in the sport right now. And there's a difference right now in talking about World Series events wanting to see Luke Littler for the very first time and World Series events needing to see Peter Wright for the 12th time in a row, who is significantly out of form in comparison to previous visits down there, all because he does a funny walk-on, which, let's be honest, He's not even doing that anymore.
But no, I get that point from a sporting point, and I do. However, you're sat around the table trying to negotiate a new deal, right? You're talking to, is it Fox that's got it in Australia?
Yeah.
Right. Right. We want 15 million. I'm just making up figures here, by the way. We want 15 million pounds broadcast right for 5 years. All right. Yeah, that's fine. This year we're going to give you Joe Bloggs, Fred Smith, and the TV companies goes, no. If we're giving you this money, we want da.
You can do better than Joe Bloggs and Fred Smith, though, because let's be honest, if you chucked them Joe Cullen, Johnny Clayton, Dave Chisnell, and Dirk Van Dijvenbode, you still got a hell of an event.
You have. I do get it. I see it from both sides.
This is what I mean. I get both sides of the argument. I genuinely do. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. But my logic is, when you've seen players that have been there 5, 10 plus times already, you don't need them every single year. You could have an agreement right now with the likes of Wright, Van Gerwen, Price. You're going to see them every other year because they want time off. And there's just no forward pre-planning. Let's be honest, for the foreseeable future, Michael Van Gerwen, Luke Humphries, Luke Littler, and Gerwin Price are going to be in everything.
Look, Bill can look at this from an objective here. He's from North America. That even a year next year on, they want the marquee players. With the greatest one in the world, they don't want Joe Cullen, the next ones below. And I'm not saying these players aren't good, but they're not in that elite bracket. They're the next one.
I get what you're saying in that, like, let's be honest. If Phil Taylor spent 2 years chucking a 60 average, but somebody announced that Phil Taylor was going to play Michael Van Gerwen, people will buy tickets to it. And they're not, but I sort of get it that because of what it is, it's an exhibition. What you aren't booking in Madison Square Garden are the 8 most informed players in the world. They are the perceived 8 players that they think will sell the most tickets. And that doesn't necessarily need to be because they're the most informed players. It might just be because they're active world champion. You know, they're active former world champions, and they want to get as many active former world champions as possible because they want their players to play against, you know, former world champions. Like, I get the logic. I don't get people turning it down. I don't understand people not wanting to go. Well, I understand people not wanting to go. I don't understand people not going.
I think there's a balance to be struck in the middle, and the fact that you said in the same 8 everywhere at the minute is bad for them, it's bad for you as a product, and it's bad for the fans at home. It's great for the PDC in the very, very short term for their pockets, but it is not great for building new fan bases, for getting other players out there. Look, you don't have to drop 1 or 2 into an 8-man field. You can rotate them. Oh, we didn't get to see Peter Wright in Australia this year. We'll send him next year. All right, Van Gerwen wants time off with his family. We'll make sure he's there next year. But you've got Gerwin Price, Luke Humphries, Luke Littler, and Michael Smith instead. You've got a 2-year rolling system. You know how far some of these players are going to fall.
Well, do you also think that some of it...
Yeah.
Do you think some of it is for them? Like, let's be honest, we know where Peter Wright's going to end up in the rankings, or we know somewhere near. Do you think the reason Peter's everywhere this year is probably his last year? They can justify it. Right. Same as the Premier League. You can't justify it next year.
If he keeps not throwing darts away as a minute, but keep getting the similar results, then yeah.
You say
I didn't want him in this year.
You say you can't justify it. However, on the current tour card race, he's still world number 9 come January the 3rd.
Yeah, but there's a long way to go this year, mate.
But what I'm saying is, it's not the drop off.
Squad number 19. You're still going to pick him.
Are you? Do you remember when they left him out when he was world number 5 or whatever it was?
He hadn't won anything then.
I was just saying, it's not.
Oh, the home nation players aren't a question here, Bob. Whitlock and Heta in Australia, 100%.
But the difficulty you're going to have, and in order to even come close to justifying Peter Wright, is their arms up their back, and they will, as they've said, they will maintain that the top 4 get in. But again, we've no idea what's going to happen this year. But currently, that leaves Gezi Price not automatically qualified in the top 4. Luke Littler not automatically qualifying in the top 4. There's another 2 that we know are going to be in there. So there's only 2 spots left for the Premier League.
I don't think the Premier League is right for going Price at all, by the way, but that's the conversation for another day.
Now, there's
That'll be a conversation at the end of this season when he misses the playoffs again.
And so you've got 2 spots for me left. And your 2 spots. I mean, it depends what happens this year, doesn't it? But, Bunting's going to have a shout. He's going to be ranked higher than Peter Wright. Littler's going to be ranked higher than Wright.
No one gets fined, Josh, but A.D. Lewis turned down 1 World Series and never got another.
I was just
That's
after
the big
Matador,
shadow over everything, is that if you say no, they stop giving you these opportunities.
after Matador put that, I was trying to look at when I can't find it, but he declined Australia and New Zealand and never got picked for a World Series again.
But if he gets it in a minute, are you really asked about that? Because you want holiday time.
Yeah, I don't think Gezi Price will be asked in the slightest if that happened.
Yeah, I can't remember what year Adrian pulled out. He just wanted family time. He was going on holiday with the family and things like that. I can't remember. But yeah, that's another question entirely, Jason. The fact that we've seen Gezi this year just pull out the Masters because, all intents and purposes, he couldn't be asked. That's another.
No, he pulled out for family reasons. Sarcasm, Philip.
I was having dinner with him on the Wednesday in Cardiff. To be fair, if the Premier League had been anywhere else from Cardiff, it'd have been all right. And then wasn't there rugby on that weekend as well?
Maybe.
Look, it's an interesting one, but the bit I don't like is that I get that this has been done late, but also the fact that these players are all over posters. It's almost false advertising and fans buying tickets, and then these players aren't going.
You know as well as I do, there's a line on there that's saying lineup may change.
Yeah, you'll never get that.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. But as a fan,
we've designed enough of them between us to know what goes on those posters.
As a fan, you still feel shortchanged.
That's up to the PDC then, and it's confirmed that these guys are 100% going before you start plastering over posters.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the key. So when you put it on there,
World Series rotation lineup a year in advance, and leave one spot open for unsuspecting events. Dimitri suddenly hits form again, and you go, right, he's viable, or Danny Noppert becomes interesting. Joe Cullen remembers he's a dart player. Chris Dobie is slightly less northern.
Never going to happen.
You get my point.
Never going to happen.
You can block 6 or 7 onto each event and just leave one space open and go, right, you're the last minute addition.
I do buy into the fact that his northernness predicates a conspiracy to keep him out of opportunities. It's discriminatory.
Josh, the PDC were informed. I'm not sure if it was a long time or not, but they were informed. Look, it's an interesting one. Right, let's go Premier League roundup. after Gob saying he was finished last week. Of course, MVG had to win. Timing was everything, Gob, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, he was absolutely garbage. Let's not 93 and a 90 to win it is not something I'll be bragging about.
Oh, look, I'm not saying he played. I'm not saying he played well, by the way. But, yeah, look, it was an interesting night in Birmingham. I've got to say, first of all, the atmosphere was better than it's been. Still, look, I thought it was if I'm being honest, I still thought it was a poor Premier League night. Arguably one of the worst we've had as a whole night.
It was the poorest night of the year so far. And if it hadn't have been for one performance from Luke Littler, it would have been the worst mean average for the night, just in terms of overall numbers of the whole lot. Luke Littler has dragged the average up with that 107. One good game, well, not as much one good game, one good performance, and the rest of it was...
The Price Smith game was all right. They both averaged 103, 104 in the quarter-final.
Yeah, but it wasn't a good game, though. They averaged well, but it wasn't a good game.
Yeah,
wasn't an enjoyable watch. I just think by every metric, it just smacked of that. And I don't think it's a fault of the arena. I just think night 11, everyone's a little bit bored of it, and then it's a novelty and it's quite exciting at the beginning. Exciting things are happening. Everyone just starts to get bored. And then as it starts to get a bit boring, then it gets exciting because the games start to mean something, and people can qualify and people can start to switch around in that fourth spot, because we haven't got to that bit yet. We're just literally in that dip and it's just a slight lull before we get to the business end of the tournament. It made me laugh incredibly as we had a bit of a chat on the fallout, because I do think it's the first time I've ever seen commentators accurately liken Michael Van Gerwen to James Wade as he waded his way to victory. It was exactly the fashion in which he won that Premier League night.
Does that mean Phil doesn't like Michael anymore?
He was wading.
Hashtag wading. Yeah, look, overall, look, let's not sugarcoat it. It was a poor night.
The word you're looking for is crap. Say it.
Yeah, it was shit.
That'll do.
I was there. It wasn't a fucking great night. But before we look at Rotterdam this week, the table stands currently. Luke Littler top on 26. Luke Humphrey second on 24. 24 has always been the hallowed number. So are we saying the top two safe?
I mean, for me, there's only one place in play.
I was about to say, MVG third on 22 points. He's a win away from that hallowed 24 number. So are we looking at a straight shootout between Smith and Aspinall for fourth spot?
What I said on Thursday was the only way that gets more interesting than that is if Rob Cross wins this week. Rob Cross has got to win a night to make it interesting, and I think it's got to happen this week. If he doesn't win this week, then it's a straight two-horse race for me for the fourth spot.
Right, I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate here, and this is an if. Say Michael Smith and Nathan Aspinall both lose in round one this week, and Gerwin Price wins the night. Is he still in contention, Price, or has he got too much to do?
No, I don't think it's too much to do. I just think it's a fluke. He's not finding doubles consistently enough in his game. Like, we know he's got a night win in him because he's that good a player that he can string 3 matches on the bounce over a short format. Can he then go and do it again the following week and the week after? Well, his form this year would suggest not.
it's interesting. Before we look at this week, I'm going to play the clip from Michael because he was in an interesting mood in Birmingham.
People still know when I'm turning up, I can do some great things. I can battle from any position, and of course, that's the way our darts is. When you win, when you're doing well, people adore you, and when you're playing crap, people tell you you're crap and shit. That's the way our darts is, and that's the way how. But more important is how do you deal with the situation? How do you respond? How do you respond with the important moments like this tonight? And I think I did that well tonight. Why he did and very creative for the sport of darts, I think is phenomenal. But
within media,
with all due respect, he played crap tonight, and I beat him with a crap game. That's the way. That's reality at the moment. So I'm happy with that. But we need to move on to the next one.
That's one of my favourite post-match interviews ever. He played crap, and I beat him with a crap game.
Is that something that... So you know more about Michael van Gerwen than probably anybody outside of his immediate family.
Loves a game of squash, to be fair.
Do you think... And I know he made quite light of that, and he was very jovial. It was a good interview where he was talking about beating Luke Littler whilst playing crap. Are we now seeing, and is this a new version for Michael van Gerwen, where he's not bothered about the performance, he's not bothered about big numbers, he's not bothered about bashing someone up, and that he's more than happy as long as he gets the W?
Yeah, I think so. I think for the first time in a long time, he just wants to win games. The performance is, it's just like, look, I've won. Move on.
That's what I found. That was what I found most interesting about that interview.
I agree. I think
that
more
happy because we've seen him. Let's be honest. We've seen him win matches and be deeply frustrated, angry almost when he's played better than he played there. Like I
think he is at a new stage where it's like, look, just want to win the game.
At the risk of going full on Tom Hanks in the movie Sully, can we get serious now? Can you replay the very first bit of that interview?
People still know when I'm turning up, I can do some great things. I can battle from any position.
That's changed. There's doubt there now. Because that line is always and has always been, people know when I turn up, I'm the best in the world. Nobody can beat me. And that's changed to, I can do some great things. There is fear in that from Michael van Gerwen.
It was interesting that Vincent was there this week, that Vincent stayed from the Pro Tours in the UK with him, which I found was interesting.
I mean,
he's practicing all day, grounded and a bit more realism. And that's the very, very first time. Look, we've heard that line a lot from Van Gerwen. People know when I turn up, I do this. When he's had a dip, when he's been injured, when he's done X, Y, Z. That's the very, very first time I've ever heard him not back it up with, I'm the best in the world.
I think
in 3.5 years of doing this show of access to Van Gerwen, knowing him like you do, that's the first time that line's ever changed.
I agree. I don't. Something's not right in the game, and Vincent being there is a big giveaway. And Vincent did a quick bit for the Sky Sports pod, and he said, "Look, we've worked on a lot the last couple of weeks." He goes, "I know something's been wrong with him. His focus hasn't been there." And you know when Vincent is there, it's to slap some sense into him.
It's a safety blanket, isn't it? It's back to what he knows from the beginning every time.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Vincent said to Polly, because she did the interview in the corridor whilst we were waiting for Michael to come through, that we know there's some things technically wrong, but we're working on them. It's a process.
That action, that grip, that it's just and sometimes look, I said this last week or the week before. One of the biggest changes you've ever seen to a throw on tour was Kyle Anderson. And he still would never be able to tell you how or why it came about. One day he woke up and that was how he threw darts. From solid, square on, right in front, under the chin, to full on, twisting the dart out here. So much more work to do. Explosiveness was there. but consistency dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
But that was how he felt more comfortable throwing darts, and that was how he then threw darts for the next couple of years.
I agree to that point, but I don't think this is a conscious thing because we see MVG when he gets the dart. It's not all the time. Like Kyle's was all the time, where MVG's isn't. There's still moments when he gets the dart parallel or pointing slightly up. It's still as good as ever. It's getting that dart set in the hand right has been the issue.
It's a dart, though, isn't it? Like, you know, there are elements where it looks as good as ever, but it's a dart. It's not even a leg of darts. It's a dart looks good.
So, right, watching, and this might sound really dumb and people might laugh at this, but as soon as the dart's being drawn back, I can tell you if it's going high or low before it's even left his hand now because of where it's sat in his hand.
And the dart's equivalent to court siding, I think you need to do.
No, look, that's just being a geek. That I can see from the position of the dart in his hand as he brings it back, whether it's going to go high or low. And it's
Which is not a good sign, is it?
Because it'll come back, and when it's facing down like that, you know it's going low. When it's like that or slightly up, it arcs properly. It's when it's pointing down, the wrist is having to do so much more work to force it up.
There's a break in the wrist that seems to appear a lot, and I'm far less a student of the mechanics of throw than either of you two. But which I think says something. If I notice a break in the wrist that doesn't look like it was there, that means it's quite extreme because I'm just nowhere near the level of sort of I'll have that technical insight that you two can see and can watch change throughout a game. But I noticed some time ago there was just a break in the wrist that didn't look right at all.
It's strange for me that he's gone that way as well. For somebody who's had a wrist injury, what you'd expect is somebody that used to have a break in the wrist would try and be more solid with it for comfort because you don't have the confidence to be breaking the wrist with force to get the dart through the air at the pace that you need. You're worried about something going to... Nathan Aspinall had similar, didn't he? When he was worried that something was going to snap on him.
Yeah.
And you'd expect it to be that way around. For somebody to have had an injury and then their response to that is to do something that probably damages the wrist more than your old throw is quite a weird way to have gone about it. And I think that's where the issue lies with Van Gogh is. Look, he's had back problems. He's always had that hunch as well in terms of the arc here. Now he's having wrist and hand problems. Obviously, we know he's got dental work to come up later in the year as well, which he's been quite self-conscious about throughout the last 12 months or so. There's a lot going on with Van Gogh right now. And the thing is, he's always said he doesn't want to be playing this sport forever. He has made an awful lot of money, and he is very, very comfortable if he walks away tomorrow.
100%. Right, we've still got loads to cram in. So we are going to the Ahoy in Rotterdam. Quarterfinals are as follows. Michael Smith plays Luke Littler. Rob Cross plays Gowan Price. Peter Wright plays Nathan Aspinall. And Michael Van Gogh plays Luke Humphreys. Right, let's go through it. Chat room, get involved as well. Game number one, Smith against Littler. What are we saying?
I did these the other night, and I cannot for the life of me remember any of my predictions. I'm going to end up with two different sets again. Littler 6-3.
Job?
I've actually done some research on this one. The head-to-head record is 3-1 in a favour, and in the last 3 weeks in a row, Michael Smith has averaged over 100 in the opening round. So he's going to beat Luke Littler by 6-3.
I am going for a refreshed Luke Littler after not playing on the Euro Tour this week, 6-4. Rob Cross against Gowan Price. Interesting that Rob Cross played with a new set of darts at the weekend. I'm not sure we'll see them again, but there was a change on Sunday to the equipment he played with on Saturday.
I have Price in a last leg decider that helps neither of them.
I have the same, and I didn't copy off you because I said it the other night on the Fallout, but yeah, Price 6-5.
Price 6-3 for me. Wright versus Aspinall.
Peter Wright starts to spoil here and there, causes people problems because it is probably a 2-horse race. Peter Wright, 6-4.
I also have Peter Wright. I'm going 6-3.
I'm changing my mind because I'm not agreeing with the pair of you then. I'm going Nathan. I was going to go Peter Wright, but you both went Snakey. Nathan Aspinall, 6-5 then. Then going Humphreys.
6-2. Luke Humphreys.
I had 6-1, but I've changed it on the basis that this is in Rotterdam, and I think they'll get involved a bit more. I also have 6-2 Luke Humphreys. I think he hammers him.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
If this is anywhere else, I'm genuinely considering a 6-0, by the way, but Rotterdam, I think, means he gets 2.
Yeah, that's like I was on that. That's why I gave him 2 holds of throws, pretty much.
Despite the fact he won last week, I just know Addy didn't play at the weekend.
Well, do you know why? So I literally looked last week, and it is as odd. I appreciate this is an odd way of looking at it, but I looked at Luke Humphreys, and sort of looked and went, he's averaged 94, then he's averaged 94 again. He's been, let's be honest, like blown away by Luke Littler. He's the world number 1 and world champion. That doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row. Like it doesn't, like his form's so good and he's so consistent. He's not going to turn up and average 94 again and let someone dominate him. He'll just turn up, and I just think he's too consistent to let it happen 2 weeks on the spin.
I'm going 6-5 MVG just because you two have gone. I was going to go Humphreys, by the way, but I can't have us all three agreeing. So, from your picks, I would like your finalist and winner in Rotterdam.
Well, I've already picked mine on Thursday, so I'm happy to wade straight in because it's already committed. Luke Humphreys beats Gerwin Price, and he beats him 6-3 in the final.
Go.
I don't see another outcome, but I'm going to have to find one. Humphreys beats... I'll go Smith instead. Just to make that race that little bit more interesting. 6-4 in the final.
I respect both your opinions, but you're wrong. Gerwin Price beats Michael Van Gerwen 6-3 in the final.
It's interesting. If you hadn't a change there, Gob, just for devilment, would we all have picked Gerwin Price to final next week?
Yeah. I think it just opens up for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chatroom, some superb predictions in there as well. We can move swiftly on. Euro Tour. I know Gob's been waiting for it. We're not shirking it. First of all, let's do the plus bit. Martin Schindler has finally won a PDC ranking title, and I think it's fair to say this has been coming. We've seen spells of brilliance from Schindler, and it's not a surprise that he has won a title.
Especially not when it's in Germany, no.
Right. I'm going to say something here. Hand on heart, was it as bad as what you're all saying? Because remember, I was streaming for us, so I had the volume off. I
think, and it's not just because where I really noticed it was when he was playing Chris Dobey, but I genuinely think that the standard of conduct fell woefully beneath what we should expect people in that environment. I wouldn't expect that of people in Sunderland. That's how bad it was. It was just a piss take. And I genuinely think it says more about... Dobey's the one that I saw suffer the most with it. But if I'm honest, it's probably because it's the game I was paying most attention to watching and listening to the crowd. Sorry, Rob, but I just thought it's just ridiculous. It's like a bloody pantomime, and I don't buy this. Oh well, like it's a German crowd, and that's what they do when German players are playing. Like I've just like, no thanks. I mean, it was crap, frustrating.
The problem is, it just leaves a massive shadow over the achievements of what the Germans have done. Because in the last 5-6 years now, 3 German players have won their first title in the PDC as a European Tour event in Germany. And every single time we've sat here discussing the crowd's behaviour afterwards.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously, where I'm streaming,
Schindler, who all in their own right are fantastic dart players, but when you win your first one in front of a German crowd like that, and the conversation afterwards is, "Well, the crowd was shocking," it really does take away the achievement of what should be massive, and that Germany is becoming a little bit of a powerhouse in darts. But can they do it on a cold, wet Tuesday night in, well, not Stoke in this case, Wigan now?
Barnsley.
Seemingly not.
Yeah,
We haven't replicated that success to the same level.
The difficulty, the problem I have is, I'm not so sure how many times we've now. I think I was on Monday night and we would talk like the last time this happened, and we sort of universally agreed, as does everybody else, as to just how, let's be honest, bloody simple it is to eradicate it. You've got a massive. Let's be honest, like PDC events are very, very well staffed in terms of security. They always have been. Like they're really good. You've got loads of people looking directly at the crowd. I'm not having it that they're not noticing who these people are. They just need to be immediately removed. He's signage up on the way in. He's printing on the tickets. If you are whistling when players are going for doubles or whatever verbiage you put around that, you will be immediately removed from the venue. And then you need to do it. Once you do it to 2 or 3, 4 people, people will stop because they won't want to miss out on a German winning by dicking about. Like, I don't think for a moment the crowd was the reason that Joby didn't win.
This is my favourite one.
That's the answer. Yeah. That's the answer. The answer is Chris Mason on the corner.
He gets hold of everybody in the Super Series IP addresses. He's coming for you.
Yeah, look, the problem is...
Drag 3 people outside and you stop it straight away. I genuinely think that's the case.
But do they want to stop it is the next question.
Well...
That's the question. Do they want to?
It depends who they is. If you mean the German representatives, probably not. The PDC should, in my opinion.
When it's happened in Manchester the other week, one of my friends from university was there. And he informed me that they'd sent out a do's and don'ts from the venue the day before the event. No beer throwing. This is for drinking only. Please leave darts of all descriptions at home. Leave the throwing to the professionals. We encourage guests to wear fancy dress, but please note the costume should not cover your face. You pass through our security checks. This includes morph suits. Behaviour, good vibes only. Please respect our staff. Inflatables, as fun as they are, we do not allow them into the venue. It's nowhere near strong enough as a message the day before.
Manchester is the, and I'm happy saying it because I've been to loads of them. Manchester is the worst staffed and managed, and not by the PDC, by the venue itself, Premier League night of all. Like the last time I went to Manchester, and I do genuinely boycott it now, they ran out of beer carriers at 7:30, clearly taken by surprise that people going to the darts might have a drink. And we left after my wife bollocked 3 security guards that were sat playing on their phones outside the ladies' toilets that was overflowing with blokes in the ladies' toilets while 3 security guards sat outside on Facebook. Like Manchester is not the example to look to but that I think is more logistics and management and operations of the venue rather than the fans. Because again, some of the fan behaviour, I point to the venue and say, manage it better.
Which is saying something, because the security to get into Manchester is more high profile than 95% of the venues on the tour.
It is, but I know loads of people that commented on going last week that where they went in with no bag search and no various other it's not in my experience has not been good at all.
I got groped by the security guard going through the back entrance. So literally, they searched everything.
What you get up to on your way into the back entrance is completely up to you, mate.
You have to pay him a tenner.
Someone clip that, please.
Honestly, like the security checks for staff, media, and whatever was ridiculous.
If there is somewhere in the chat room a talented DJ who can produce, if you could maybe do a house remix with Phil being groped by the security guard running through it, that would be magnificent. A good driving track.
UK Garage is better.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, it was. But that's the question that I know, Gob, you spoke about it, but a lot of this is down to venue security as well to target this.
I think there's a directive, isn't it? Because actually, what the PDC can turn around and say is, "Be stronger, or we won't come back to your venue." There are enough cities or towns where you could move events to, and you turn, and when the fans kick off, you go, "Well, it's because you couldn't fucking behave." They've got the perfect opportunity here to wipe it out. And by putting it back on, having a conversation with the venue, and then putting it back on the fans, and all right, you then get the whole conversation that, well, we weren't doing it, so why should we miss out? But everybody's got to come together and just make darts a nicer place to be at, because you can, and I say this regularly, you can still have a party atmosphere where you can sing songs, have a drink, enjoy the sport, cheer, whatever, and not launch a pint, get into a fight, or be a knobhead.
I see someone's paid for the VIP package. You get to use a special bar as well. No one else is allowed in.
Yeah, look, it's interesting, but it's whether they want to change it and stop it is the first issue. Because over the last 3 years, we've seen no sign of it wanting to change it. I agree with you; it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But this is now 3 years down the line, and nothing has changed.
When you've got quite clearly plenty of genuine darts fans, either in our chat room, online, or whatever, saying, "I don't want to go to the darts anymore," you've got an issue, because that's not sustainable for a sport to just be attracting pissheads constantly. By the way,
it's a fine line. Like I understand the necessary need, and I do enjoy the Premier. I am one of the minority, I think, that enjoys the Premier League both as a TV commodity and in person as a fan. And I have been lucky enough to enjoy the Premier League live in heartbeat because it's brilliant. But there's certain venues that I just think, and I think if you've got to the point where you're turning off somebody like me, you've got something wrong.
Yeah.
Mark, my point isn't aimed at Manchester. They were just last weekend where the videos were viral. So, I mean, I'm still all up for insulting the Germans if we're going that way. Why are people saying the stream crashed? Philip, your internet must suck.
Didn't stop for me.
No, I didn't miss a beat from what I can understand. Are we still live?
Still live. People are saying it's back. It must have just crashed for 30 seconds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Was Phil pulling a compromising face?
Momentary freeze.
Yeah.
The stream went into shock by Phil being molested. That's what it was.
Yeah. Right, we can't end up without not doing a question time. So get your questions in. We are deep in Dan's first show. The board's been, and we are signalling extra time. So get your questions in, everyone.
An additional 6 minutes.
Belfast. Yeah,
that's the quickest we've ever spoken about a Euro Tour, by the way.
Yeah. Something's going on, isn't it?
Final was good.
Oh, can we talk about the fact that England absolutely swept up at the home internationals, which for only 3 countries to be involved in, I think is a bit of a waste of time. I can't lie. Play the Six Nations and bigger. And also seniors this weekend. Congratulations to Ross Montgomery and Derek Coulson for winning Target Open Series 9 and 10, respectively.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Is Phil going? Are you going this week, Phil? Are you traveling to Rotterdam?
There's bear shit in the woods.
You flying?
No, I'm getting the Eurostar from King's Cross.
See, do you know what everybody does from my end of the country? There's a very, very nice overnight ferry that goes. You can go from Newcastle. You can literally get on the ferry at 7 o'clock, sail from Newcastle and drive off at 7 o'clock the following morning. Just go for a kip and then you get off as fresh as a daisy.
Getting the Eurostar over Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon. I think I'm on the 5:30 Wednesday. 3.5 hours direct to Rotterdam. Then back early Friday morning, and myself and Matthew Edgar are going to the O2 Friday night.
Is the Torremolinos Darts Open this week?
Just completed, yeah. Tom Alloy's won the singles from Nottinghamshire. What man? What machine?
So, was one.
What was that?
Wade.
Does it involve throwing darts at a dartboard?
Yeah.
Littler.
Any more interviews this week? Yes, there is. We have got Joe Cullen, Simon Whitlock, and Chris Dobie coming this week.
Oh, that's good.
Must say our latest interview interaction levels were through the roof.
Thanks, Raymond.
Oh, I suppose that's one of the things we didn't mention there. I wrapped it up the other day, but that Euro Tour win does give or put somebody else in pole position to captain the German World Cup team on home soil in Frankfurt later in the year.
Yeah, Martin Schindler is the new German number 1.
Schindler becomes the German number 1,
yes,
and therefore the German captain.
Yes.
How much of an effect that really has as to who's the captain, I'm, not convinced.
Yeah, Anthony, how dare he qualify for ET4? No, he'll have a blast. But yeah, me and Matt are going to go to for the wrestling. Bill, not a problem. Not a problem being up for the Spellman Dart. It was a pleasure. What else? Connor says, what do you mean the big stars to miss down under? Gerwyn Price and Michael Van Gerwen not going to the Oceanic World Series event. Chris, if you listen to Fallon's interview, she didn't agree or disagree with Nolan playing. She was hammering the way the protests were done.
Yeah, I thought that was very, very...
It didn't mention anything, whether she agrees with it or whether she doesn't. It was the way that people have gone about it and picking and bullying Noelin was the issue.
Which, if we're honest, is about
hurtful.
It was complete common sense, wasn't it? The Fallon's interview was absolute common sense, and genuinely to pick fault with it sort of says that your solution to sensible, realistic, sporting and scientific debate is just to sort of bring it down to abuse, and that isn't the answer. And I think that the point Fallon made was very much that she didn't really weigh in on the politics of the situation at all, but just said that you know there's a basic way that you should treat people, and she's tried to put some support in place when that wasn't happening.
Yeah, 100%.
To put it into a context that we've done before, I can sit here and tell you that I don't think Luke Littler should play on the Dev Tour because he has a tour card, but I'm not sat here calling Luke a knobhead for playing on the Dev Tour.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just an example. Don't kill me. Let's not attack at anyone. He was just the first one that came to mind.
Now you're cancelled. Well done.
Yeah.
Just
widest shot of the biggest star in the sport. Yeah.
Not correct, because I didn't ask her about whether she agreed with it or not. I asked about the shit that Noelin was getting. So she asked the question. I didn't ask her the question. So blame me for not asking, but I asked her about because we'd heard lots of rumours and from more than one player that the last women's series was a toxic atmosphere in the venue. That's where that line of questioning come from.
Good one from Jack. Says just myself need to watch a Murph interview at some point. Go and do it. Very, very good.
Good.
Oh, I watched that this week. It was excellent.
Daz, the answer is yes. Sunday the 28th. The draw was produced earlier.
Was that an open draw?
Don't know. I've not watched it yet.
Coincidence.
This stuff only happens when I'm not at work. The referees played darts against each other the week after I left to go back to Nottingham. I'm back in tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, but the draw was done on Monday.
When are you in? Tomorrow. Yeah, I'm there as well.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, and then Thursday afternoon as Marshall.
I'm there tomorrow, half Wednesday and Saturday. So yeah, it's all good. Everyone, thank you very, very much. And this will be available as an audio only. I shall edit it in the morning. So if you're listening back on all good podcast providers, available as an audio only. Dan, your first show proper is in the can. Enjoy it? Always
enjoy a Monday night. Lovely to be aboard in this new way. I can't think I lost track the other day of how many years now that I've been sort of periphery involved with online darts. I think this is year 4, perhaps.
Yeah.
2020, I think. So yeah, nice, good to sort of take that to the next level or the next step. Always good fun. Looking forward to next Monday already.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, if you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a follow. All social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and of course here on YouTube. Make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. Plenty of content coming your way this week. But we have been the Live Lounge for another week. Thank you very much for your support. Myself, Phil Bars, Jack Garwood, and Dan Simpson. We are signing out, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Bye.